Again, wars going on, but nothing too intense. Morocco getting slain by Portugal, who clearly want to have greater control over the trade that passes through their lands. You can get a better look at that right here. Since trade from the New World, although we can't see all of its flow, it's clear that a good chunk of it, or rather whoever controls this choke point of Osuscan, can decide whether or not it goes to Sevilla and further on to Genoa, or into the North Sea and into the deep pockets of the English Channel. Yeah, both are pretty dangerous for the colonizers, since Sevillan trade can be sucked away into Genoa. You need only apply plenty of light ships or have plenty of power here already, and France has that. They also have the capacity to throw quite a few ships into that mix. But if it were to go up north instead, well, Burgundy have quite a bit of control, or at least soon will have quite a bit of control over the English Channel. We can get some actual numbers on that. There we go, more than a quarter of it, and that's going to go up fairly high when they grab more Dutch land. They're currently integrating Holland. They could wait for it to happen naturally through death. Yeah, can get some odds on that, I believe. There's only a 3% chance of integration on Monarch Death. They clearly don't want to take that risk, so manually here they come. Seems that Hungary could not handle the overextension there. They decided to release Crimea. Another dangerous thing to do, because Crimea still have a lot of cores there. And this could antagonize both them and the Ottomans. If they saw the opportunity to get those cores back, Hungary would likely go for it. They also have a fair few troops on the borders, but the Ottomans are powerful. The Ottomans are very powerful. But they also have many fronts now. A coordinated attack could certainly shatter Mr. Nibble's little nation there. Being asked on my thoughts on the 30 Years' War, who will side with Catholic and who will side with Protestant? Well, we don't have such a situation brewing yet, but I don't recall any formal agreements being made within the office, so it remains to be seen what will happen with that. Of course, looking at the religious situation, Iberians, France and Burgundy and Austria holding true to the Catholic ways, Denmark as well. Britain and Hungary pretty much alone in embracing the Protestant faith. Good to see Bohemia and Brandenburg taking my personal favourite, Reformed. I do like Reformed. And perhaps you're not too familiar with why, but you get fervour points each month, and you can spend them on what you prefer. So as opposed to playing as a Protestant nation, where you choose your permanent bonuses with your church power bonus, and you can switch them out spending church power as well. So if it's a time of peace, and you don't want Saints Accept Prayers giving you morale, well, I don't think I can change that out there, but I can have a look at what we have. Maybe I want to go on a developing spree and get it as cheap as possible. That would be organised through Bishop's Time to Shine. Or if times are hard on stability, or if legitimacy is lacking. Plenty of options there. And they don't cost you ongoing amounts. But me, I'm all about the Reformed, being able to switch between trade, war and stability, perhaps even all three for short bursts. Of course, having a good, stable, powerful country really helps with that. The lack of prestige and stability only being at 1, somewhat hurting that. For Bohemia, they're being asked if Burgundy will form the Netherlands. Well, their capital is still down here, so I find it highly unlikely that they would, but they could. That's the thing. Plenty of options available to them. I somewhat doubt it, though. We've seen the Netherlands a lot of times. And last time they were certainly a nuisance. They were manned by Johann last time, and I well remember the phrase of "I will subsidize anybody attacking Venice." As the Venetian player, yeah, that cost me some turmoil. G. Morgan is asking, any development plan for other religions? They seem so weak compared to Western Christianity now. Well, personally, I would love to see stuff for all the religions, but that is outside of my control. One really nice focus, if we have any such nations at the moment. Tengri could be a dying faith at the moment here. Buryatia well and truly having gone yes, Buddhist. But Mongolia still remains. Still the Tengri faith, the glorious Tengri faith. And Tengri is a lot of fun because you can choose to have a syncretic faith, a faith that you kind of pretend to follow. It can be of any province's religion that is within your realm or that you border. So they've gone Sunni, which means even though their only land is Sunni, they treat it as the true faith. So they've got no penalties there. And Sunni nations like them a bit more because they're not full-on heathen. At least they pretend not to. Now Forza down in the Mamluks is egging people on to join the coalition against Austria. It's still big and mighty there, but if some players were to join in that and pull the trigger, then it would cause them a lot of grief, but they would need a lot of very good reasons to pull that trigger and dismantle Austria. Austria has actually been causing quite a few issues in terms of game balance here, since they're defensively allying France and Britain. Whoever pulls the trigger would get them on their side. It's a bit of a shame. I would like to, well, it's not that I haven't tried getting Austria to manifest their own destiny. Again, nothing in the way of major wars going on here. Russia deciding to eat away at what remains of Sweden. Surprisingly, they haven't decided to chew up Novgorod entirely. Well, truces do have a way of stopping that. Ryazan could be another mystery case, but there's the possibility that they're just leaving Ryazan so that they can develop that land, and they have something even better than Moscow. Yeah, what a largely developed province, but getting covered in snow, as Russian places do. And Russia's rushing into some attrition over there in Finland as well. Yeah, I don't think Sweden are going to be the overpowered nation of this session at all. Oh, actually Novgorod is a vassal under Russia. That surprises me. An interesting thing, but it is very much like Grugi to do some unorthodox play, even if he is playing as an orthodox nation. It's the wonderful thing about the multiplayer, you never quite know how it's going to go down. Speaking of going down, 8 year revolts there, Britain. They're clearly not too keen on running into the woodlands and mountains of Norway to deal with that. At least not just yet. Okay, there we go. It is 1550 now, so new victory cards for all nations. Chat asking for that as well. So Spain, it's likely to be either France or Portugal. And it is indeed France, so the odds... This one is worth twice as much as the old one was as well. So it's unlikely that France and Spain would actually come together unless France were to promise Spain this land as well. That is 53 development to just throw away. That's quite a lot for France. Then again, the gains, if they were to trounce Great Britain, would be mighty as well. So if anything, France has been handed... opportunity. Might not be the most tantalizing of opportunities, but it is something they could lay down. Heck, they could even lay it down only to not deliver on it. That's what makes it somewhat interesting. Portugal, I haven't checked your development in a while. But it's plenty high enough for victory cards. And That looks a lot like both cards on Spain there to me. And the victory cards are done, here we go, with our new areas and regions. So one of them is on here, the Lower Andalusia region. The other one on the Toledo region. And the regions the areas make up greater regions here. So we have Iberia, France, Britain, Germany, Italy, etc. Further split up into areas, and that's what the victory cards are based on. So yeah, Spain has become more delicious in Portugal's eyes if they're looking to grab #1 spot. France, so there's the big question, where have you got it on? Oh ho, as if times weren't bad enough for Milan. France have well and truly been given ambitions in Italy. If they were to take all that, that would be 2,000 points for them. And let me put that in a bit of perspective for how things are right now. Current top scorer is 1,584. So just the 2,000 points from securing that 1550 victory card would put you into #1, even if you didn't get any score at all, just from accumulation. Of course, towards the end of the game, that wouldn't count quite so much. Still, it's not unlikely for there just to be a couple thousand between players, so the victory cards can really make the difference there. We pop over to Great Britain as well. Aha, this time focusing even more on Burgundy. So the last victory card they had was over in the slightly in the French, but also in the Burgundy. This one looks to be entirely Burgundian land. We can see that that's in the Flanders region. Interesting. And for our little trio here, if we look over at Burgundy, oh my, they've just been given yet more reason to go on the rampage in France. So this is going to drive conflict between our players. They can be used as bargaining chips, or they could also be used to put greed in their eyes. Are they going to want to break alliances just to secure the points? Because it doesn't matter what goes on. At the end of the developer sessions that we play here, you are judged on your score, and score alone. Granted, there are a lot of pats on the backs for pretty baller play, but at the end of the day, unless you got that score, you're not going to get the trophy. Some people have a lot of trophies, actually. Some people have lined their desk with trophies. Some even put the trophies up on the ceiling for all to admire. I mean, obviously I am man of the match here because I can observe any nation I want and claim their score, but that isn't going to get me a trophy, sadly. We should really get some betting going on for who will come out #1. I know we're only 110 years or so into the game, but we've clearly got some ambitious and high-scoring countries already. Now the Ottomans have just been granted one on their long-term ally Hungary. Well, they used to be allies, not anymore. The previous player of Ottomans had an agreement with Hungary on borders here. Nothing to say that Mr. Nibbles, who now takes the helm, will be quite so keen to hold on to that. Now the Serbian land is actually rather nice as well. The development is so-so, but you have that gold province in Kosovo. And Hungary knows it. They have been ploughing their development into it as well. Joey in the chat is asking, what if the AI has the most points in the end? I find that incredibly unlikely, but for example, if Ming's an AI and they're doing rather well, being one of the strongest nations, if Ming were to end up on top, I think Wiz would end up getting that trophy, since, well, Wiz is on the AI, so any AI accomplishment is essentially a pat on the back for him. So if you've been playing Europa personally at home, and the AI has demolished you in a war, say for example you were playing as Trebizond and doing alright and the Ottomans just came and whipped you, then, well, maybe you should send your gratitude to Wiz. Let him know how well his AI is performing. Bahman is an interesting one since they've been in relative isolation. Nonetheless, the game knows it and placed their next scorecard right on the Mughals, them being a large nearby power, pretty much adjacent since they do share the coast of Gujarat. So if Bahmanas are looking for top score, they're going to have to plough into the Mughals, the very same Mughals which are allied to both Ottomans and Russia. Now when Johan comes back to pilot the Mughals, could be that he does not want that alliance with Russia. But at the very least it's nice and defensive for our Russian player at the moment to have AI Mughals on their side. Karsten remaining the only one at war here. Down in the Mamluks. And the Mamluks have been gathering a lot of power over in Africa. And for good reason. Now this is part of one of the new options that have been added. If you do not like having these big blocks of wasteland in your country, getting in the way of some perfectly nice name placement, you can just change it in the options, and if you encircle most of a wasteland province, it'll change to your colour and allow for your name to go over it. I can't select it though, it's not a province, you can't develop it or build in it or anything like that. It is functionally exactly the same. It just looks a bit nicer. If you were to take Congo or Loango or Ndongo for massive points there, and paint yourself all over Africa, it was a bit disheartening just to see your name very small around here. But now you can just have it across the whole place. Again, that is an option. Feel free to turn it on or off as per your desires. No problems for Spain there. They can't dilly-dally too much around here since they have a whole load of new world for themselves to enjoy. They have finally established themselves a colonial nation here in the vast riches of... Man, I'm going to need to remember the name of this place since we're going to be coming back here a lot, aren't we? So, let's grab our regions map mode. Apple Nose. It's probably not exactly the way, but I'm calling it Apple Nose. So there we go. Their nation here is also called Spanish Apple Nose, so we'll remember to that. So down in Apple Nose, Spain are proving to be the dominant power. In fact, they're the uncontested power. But for how long are the British going to be happy with their cold and snowy provinces up here? And it's for Britain to decide. Yeah, soon enough they'll have another colonial region under their control, Colonial Alvord. So Alvord and Apple Nose. Man, I never considered how hard it's going to be to remember all these. I should get some post-its or something. Not bad. We're also being asked to see the random New World nations. I'm not sure if you're meaning natives there, but certainly they're being persecuted by Spain at the moment. So what do we have here? We have some Mesoamerican Cachalazin down here. I don't think they're going to be doing much under this Grand Ruler, this 000. It's going to be hard times for them since, yeah, they have not been passing their reforms. In fact, things probably went so bad, which is why they're enjoying a 000 at the moment. So I think Spain is going to be able to gobble up this with very little in the way of problems, as long as they can get it all converted. Then their colonial nation should also not be seeing much in the way of problems. Of course, all this land will make for good development. Quite a bit of it down at 3, but there are some nice pickings out there. And if we check out the whole area, especially far down to the south, that's where things are getting nicer. Of course, Spain may not want to spread their resources too thin. We're being asked if a European can get victory cards in the New World. I find that unlikely, but there's Thinking about it in my head, there's more than likely a setup that could cause that. It's just that it's far more likely going to happen here in Europe, where your big powerful neighbours exist. I wonder if the Danes have enough development for Victory Card yet. Now you need 300 development and, oh no, the underperforming as ever Danes. And they're even about to enjoy a Count's feud. Subpar legitimacy. Long ruling. Danish Zeke II, the letter Z, aka Zeke, has decided to self-insert Prince Elector Danish Zeke II von Wittelsbach. Oh me, oh my. Oh, there we go. Seems we've got a religious war on our hands. Holy Roman Empire is in a state of religious war between Catholic and Protestant faiths. Seems quite a lot of overwhelming support for the Catholic side. We've got Burgundy, Austria, Hungary, France, Brandenburg as well. And on the loser side, I mean the Protestant side, really it's just Bohemia. Interestingly enough, the Golden Horde sees fit to join in there, probably because they want some strength against Hungary. They're not going to be finding it there. In fact, if Bohemia keeps playing like this, they could well see themselves a big old target here. Since Bohemia is not the worst of places to expand into. That development is none too shoddy. Granted, they have increased coring costs, but that's not too bad. When you end up running out of places to go to, then you stop worrying about that. Being asked what is going on with Portuguese, indeed they are getting floored by rebellion here. The Pretender rebels, oh my, rather a lot of them. But is this on purpose perhaps? They have a 335 in charge. Well, considering if the rebels win, or should I say when the rebels win, they get a 220 ruler instead of their current... No, their current dynasty is better in every way. Maybe they just really, really do not want the Lancasters, so that they can tear themselves away from the British dynasty. Still, nobody's coming to the Portuguese aid, and they're in a spot of bother. They're in a spot of financial bother as well. They're over 1,000 ducats in debt. Oof, 1,005 ducats. You can't just pluck that out of thin air. Speaking of things that can't be plucked out of thin air, what is Great Britain up to? They are powering up. They're making their way up to their rather large force limit now. They've got a force limit of 96. That's rather large. And it's almost the largest. Only Russia really opposes that, and France is way down at 56. So, harsh times. Austria appears to be complimenting their vassal, who's going over and dealing with the Golden Horde. Must have been a long trip for you, Florence, but good job. You take Saratov. Actually, if Austria really wanted to get involved here, they could well make Golden Horde their vassal, but that would be really spitting in the face of Russia and Ottomans. Perhaps Austria wields diplomatic power to do that. Or perhaps they just really want Memmingen and its ridiculously high development. Certainly add to that Austrian Empire that they've been so bragging about. And being asked about the disputed successions going on in Europe, well, worth having a look at. But it seems that Armenia and Thuringia are at risk of falling under union. Armenia, the kind of forgotten nation here that nobody's really looking at. And they even have their own vassal. They have Hassa as a vassal. Good heavens. One wonders how. One wonders why. But what'll happen upon your death? Okay. Doesn't look, since they have no real foreign relations there, it doesn't look like anybody's going to be taking over. There's no R in Memmingen. There is when I say it. But that doesn't matter. Maybe if they had an R, they wouldn't be annexed by now. Could be that Ulm is next on the menu there, but what of Austria's aggressive expansion here? Plenty of people are angry, but for the most part it's players. The AIs have been sufficiently pacified, so Austria could see it that they can enter hyper blob mode before too long. We'll see about that. Speak of the devil. Ulm managed to become leader of the Protestant League. For all we know, they could cause the downfall of Bohemia. I just don't see that happening. Britain choosing to remain outside of all of this. Probably not wanting to spark a great war after the grand success of their treaty there. Indeed, Ulm strong. Ulm strong as they come. Not very prestigious though. That doesn't seem right. Gotland's got more prestige though, and Gotland is led by one hell of a leader. The Gutnish merchant adventures now unlocked for Gotland. Through trade they shall become the richest. War waging again over here. Seems that Spain are rather keen to establish themselves over here in a large way. But this is bow and arrows against the lightning. Spain will triumph here. Of course, they may want a few more troops if they're dealing with this large amount of land. The natives may be weak and spongy, but there'll be a fair few of them. Britain may be the one throwing all their weight around, but in the end, Spain is pretty powerful. Spain is very powerful. Force limit not so high, development not quite so high, but they have a prime area to really expand in terms of colonial nations around here. Then again, that could just come to bite these people in the behind, because, well, especially Spain if they're not expanding too much for themselves, since with some of the new changes we have here, it would just take one pesky little nation to decide that their next ideas are going to be espionage. And maybe, just maybe, they want to agitate that liberty. I mean, I don't want to put ideas in anybody's head here. But if Great Britain was throwing people around a bit too much, perhaps you may want to get that liberty up. Oh, it's dark times for France's dynasty. Very dark, with a 43-year-old on the helm and no legal heir to take over. Should they die right now, Burgundy and Great Britain would go to war over their throne. Truly is the Game of Thrones in this one. It already happened to Austria. Bohemia was at risk of it as well. And at 45, well, the clock is ticking for you in 16th century Europe. Being asked for another peek at Africa. That we can do. It's unusual to see Jenny come out on top here. Normally you'd see quite a bit more Strong High. But no, Strong High is getting squeezed in here. My good, even Kabul. But it seems that Portugal isn't really going for all that. Portugal seems to be going for revolting. I wonder what caused them to have such issues. Perhaps we can even have a peek at them. Come on, Portugal, what's the matter with you? Other than your crippling debt. Well, still sitting at 1005, but I don't think you're going to be making all that much. Your army is tiny, and you would need to really get it all together to deal with these peasantry. But surely you don't have other revolts coming, do you? Nah, it doesn't seem so. So hard times for the Portuguese. But I'm sure they can pull it together. I'm sure Spain isn't eyeing them up and thinking, oh, that's a very delicious looking victory card you have there. Don't mind if I take it. Same culture group, same religion as well, don't mind if I do. People are asking if Great Britain have the mission to personal union France. They do not, and they've got to focus on their wooden wall there. Sticking other players into a personal union is not usually the best of ideas, since you need 50 years before you can start integrating, and any player subject who really doesn't want to be a subject is going to fight for their freedoms anyway. If anything, it would just encourage more people to side with France against the traitorous Great Britain. Yeah, they certainly are building up, though. Now, they don't actually have any troops stationed around in their colonies, which may seem a little odd, so let's have a look over here. Sure enough, they have the native coexistence policy that actually kills any chance of natives rising up against them. Of course, they could instead go for the trading policy, which really is my favourite there, because I don't mind natives uprising. I'll happily put them to sword. But the good part about the native trading policy is that when they assimilate, depending on the amount of natives there, you'll get a bonus to the goods produced there. Where do we have it here? Natives. 1,800 of them, and if they were to join you would get plus 0.09 goods produced. Doesn't seem like all that much, but if you're producing particularly lovely things around here, and I don't think that's going to be here since it's all cold up there. No time for dyes up there. Oh, but if you had copper, naval supplies get pretty good later on. Fish is always rather nice, but that's just personal preference there. Or good old dyes, for example. You definitely want that extra goods produced. You'll make the extra in production, and you'll also make a good old chunk in trade, so it's a double whammy. The native populations around here, for the most part, are rather small. But that also means that them rising up isn't going to be too much of a problem anyway, since you can just shoot them back down. Of course, Great Britain wants to have all their armies on standby in case anybody decides to tear up that treaty right in front of their face. So that is probably why they're keeping close to 100,000 men ready and garrisoning Europe. 270 is in the chat asking, I don't know if this has been asked before, but there's a crossed sword icon on the map. Not currently in the game. Is that for a battle? Well, you've got some keen eyes there. Maybe we can find some battles that are going to happen. Bachmanas, are you still putting anyone to the sword? Nothing going on there. Perhaps there are still battles to be waged around here. There will be. There definitely will be, so we can keep our eye on that. Once you've brought down this fort, or the fort has brought you down. Yes, indeed. So there we go. They're moving in here. And we have a little icon telling us that the battle will start between Spain and Zotri. And indeed it does. Probably butchered the name there, as I often do. We'll see it again here as they move on to attack the rest of Zotri. There we go. And again, it'll tell you the exact date that it's happening, despite people trying to move away. And we've all had it before. You're moving to engage somebody, but oh, there's a day between it, or even on the same day, and they manage to escape your clutches. Or you're looking to run away from that French 30,000 stack of Space Marines that are looking to ruin your day. Well, now you'll be able to see at a glance if a battle is going to happen. And believe me, that's a useful utility. Even if you were moving into a province and you don't know if you're going to be able to catch them or not, you don't have to go and compare the dates between the two moving armies like you would before. Previously you would have to highlight your own army, highlight their army, check the dates that are going there. Now you just have to move, and if you see the cross, there's going to be a battle there. Whether you like it or not. Still, it's good information to know. And that is what the cross swords are. Demand that Spain gives its country a proper name. Well, I could have a few words with Spain after this session. Like Wiz did when naming Lancastria. Oh, this isn't Lancaster. These are the British subarctic islands. Not to be confused with glorious Lancastria. Oh, terribly boring. British Alvord. You can do better than that.